leaves are turning brown.
Good morning, all. It's a beautiful fall morning. It's actually the first full day of the autumn equinox. I cannot believe it, but I do love the fall. I love the cozy days. I love fall food. I just am a summer girl at heart. But one of my favorite things about fall is bringing in all of the summer goodies. We have been harvesting and canning and preserving up a storm, and I wanted to bring you along with me this week so that you could see what's going on in the kitchen, what kinds of things we like to preserve. So grab a cup of coffee, cozy up, and join us for the week.
Autumn comes too soon.
Fall right in the basket. You're the bestest jalapeno picker I ever saw.
All that blossomed will wither away and die. Not now, I'm not ready, not just yet.
We are going to start with a new to me recipe. I am making Cowboy Candy, also known as candied jalapenos, and I've had this at my mom's house, at my mother-in-law's house, and we've all really enjoyed it, especially on burgers or sandwiches. So this year we grew lots of jalapenos, and that is what we are making. Now I will say, this being my first time, I wish I would have simmered down the liquid part just a little bit more to make it a little more thick, a little more syrup-like, but they turned out very, very good. And I will link the recipe and all these recipes in the video description. Alright, the next recipe this week is our favorite canned vegetable, and that is green beans. There isn't much canned veggies that I enjoy. We like tomatoes, but I really don't like canned vegetables in general. I tend to like to freeze my veggies. Green beans is definitely an exception, and this year we did pretty well with our green beans. The girls are helping me snap them, we cleaned them up, and we're just packing them with a little bit of salt, some hot water, and then we're pressure canning them. Super simple process, and if you've never canned anything before, there is no reason to be scared. It is very safe and very, very simple. Green beans is a very easy one to start with. There's really not very many ingredients at all, and once you get your veggies packed with salt, you simply put lids and rings on and you pressure can them. I was able to fit 20 pints of green beans in my pressure canner. Okay, this next recipe is near and dear to our heart. That's because the recipe was shared with us from family in North Carolina, and every time we go back to visit, they make this delicious cream corn for us. So we just had to make it this year and preserve my mom's sweet corn that she was so generous to share. And again, this recipe is super simple. It's not even a canning recipe. You start by shucking the corn, cutting off the kernels, and you really want to scrape out all that sweet, milky corn goodness. Mix it with some sugar, some salt, some water, let it simmer. I like to blend up at least a quarter of it in the blender. Stir it all up, let it come back to a simmer, let it cool slightly, then just bag it up, and I like to package it in quart freezer bags. This is just a good amount for us to eat in one sitting. The girls and I have been back and forth to the garden a lot this week. Okay, go back a little farther. You almost got it. Good job, girl. Our pumpkins are so cute. cute, but they're not very big, so we're just gonna do something fun with these. As far as preservation goes, you may think this is kind of funny, or maybe this is cheating, but we're going to make pumpkin bars. Bubbles. The reason I call this a preservation recipe is because we're also going to save some of the puree to pop in the freezer for making maybe pumpkin muffins or pumpkin bread this winter. Also going to make some pumpkin bars, and I like to freeze half of them because if I leave the whole pan around, let's just be honest, I will eat them all. They're one of my very favorite things. Pumpkin bars with cream cheese frosting. Yum. Let's make them. You don't even have to use pumpkin when you're making a quote-unquote pumpkin puree. Actually, squash, like a butternut squash or a buttercup squash or something like that, some sort of winter squash, works really, really well. In fact, the week prior, I had roasted a buttercup squash the same way. You cut it in half, you scoop out the seeds, and then you roast it in about a 400-degree oven, face down, for about 45 minutes to an hour. It really depends on how big your squash is. Now, this is a mixture of the squash from last week and the pumpkin from today. I blended it up with a little bit of water. I'm going to use some for the pumpkin bars, and then these nifty little containers are called super cubes. It holds about 2 cups of mixture, and I use these when I make soup. I always make extra, and I'll put them in these super cubes and freeze them, but it works really, really great for things like pesto or purees such as pumpkin puree. As you can see, I am not the only one excited about these pumpkin bars. The recipe for these bars is actually from the Taste of Home website, and I will again link that for you in the video description. I did go ahead and remove the canola oil in the recipe, substituting it with melted butter. I prefer to use unprocessed whole food ingredients if I can. I also added a 1/4 teaspoon of ginger and a 1/4 teaspoon of clove because that's pumpkin pie spice flavoring to me, and I like those flavors. These bars are so simple as far as cake goes. There's nothing fussy about them. They just get spread in a rimmed baking sheet and they bake up really, really moist. Whip up a simple cream cheese frosting, and oh my word, these are good. I actually really enjoy them cold and even partially frozen with a hot cup of coffee. Okay, I'm gonna go get in my freezer stash of pumpkin bars right now. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Are turning brown, red and yellow, soon they'll be falling down. Now, I'm not ready, not just yet. I'm not ready for autumn.
There. Yeah.
Autumn comes too soon.
Look at the size of this tomato. Okay friends, this is a fall preservation staple for us. And again, I keep saying this, but this is so simple. This one is hardly a recipe. We are going to be doing sun-dried tomatoes. You don't need to know how to can to do this. You don't even need a dehydrator, although those are pretty handy. I just use my oven. I slice my tomatoes. I really like using cherry tomatoes for this, or tomatoes that aren't super juicy.
I'm not ready.
You can always kind of squeeze out some of the juice in the seeds if you need to, but cherry tomatoes and grape tomatoes work really well for this recipe. So you slice your tomatoes in half or small slices, and then you sprinkle them with just a little bit of salt, and you put them in a 200-degree oven. Now this is going to take a little while, and you need to check on them. Largely hands-off time. My 3 cookie sheets at 200 took about 4 hours to dry out. I want them to be dry but still pliable, not super crispy. So you do need to check on these guys. And then once they're ready, I just pack them up in a jar with a good quality oil. Now I was out of olive oil, that's my preferred oil. So I use some avocado oil here, but I also like to add in dried basil and oregano and a little bit more salt if you want to. You could even use a little bit of dried garlic. The key is to make sure that all of the tomatoes are pressed down really, really well, and there's enough oil to cover all of the ingredients in the jar. You don't want any bits of tomato or seasoning up above the oil. This is an oil-packed preservation method. It will keep the tomatoes fresh and shelf-stable, ready to eat at room temperature anytime you're ready. We have been eating these like crazy with homemade sourdough bagels, cream cheese. I'm gonna have to make a lot more of these to get us through the winter. Hey, you did good. Gracie, you want to pull an onion?
Oh, pull hard. Oh, good job.
Beautiful onion harvest. And last but not least, this busy week was harvesting our sweet storage onions. I planted Patterson sweet onions this year, and they just did really, really well. I'm so pleased with how they turned out. That the kids helped me get these picked on a very stormy day. In fact, you'll hear some rain in the background of these clips, but they helped me hang these in the tunnel to dry out. Now these are going to have to dry out and cure for a while until the skins are papery and dry, and then I'll brush the dirt off and yeah, store these in a cool, dark place, and they should last us well through the winter and into spring, at least until it's time to plant green onions next spring and summer. How many? What's the
171.
Here comes the rain.
171 onions, not even counting any of these.
Okay, will you come around and hold this? I'm gonna get some string and tie it on the top.
What did you do?
Bring it up.
What?
We can hang it up. And
I can.
Summer is ended.
well, my friends, that is a wrap on a very busy but satisfying week of food preservation for the winter to come. I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for being part of our community. We love having you here. Don't forget to catch new videos each week. You'll find any links and or printable recipes in the video description below. As always, thank you, and we'll see you next week. Bye, friends.
For all